Oops, we were muted.
Try it.
Have to do that again.
Sarah?
Here she is.
Okay. Murray?
Here.
Dave?
Here.
Karen?
Present.
Bill?
Here.
Kate?
Here.
Nan?
Here.
Mary Jo?
Here.
Kathy?
I'm here.
Carrie?
Here.
Susan?
I'm sorry, here.
John's here. Ben's is absent. Laura? Not here at the moment. And Dane?
Here, despite the rumors.
You just back from the parking lot.
Next item on the agenda is the recognition of guests and announcements. So why don't we start here in Burr Ridge, and we'll start with you, Mark, and work our way around.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
Emily Feister Rails. Jane Class Rails.
Dee Brennan, Rails.
Brian Hebel, Rails.
Rhonda Pitchford Rails. Mary Witt Rails.
Rose Chenoweth Rails.
Amanda Basaccio, Rails.
Art Brooks Rails.
Thank you. Are there any guests in Coal Valley?
There are no guests present.
Okay. East Peoria?
Just Kendall.
Kendall?
Good afternoon. I am currently present.
We're
Kendall
glad to
Orris.
have you with us.
Thank
Is
you.
there anyone in Rockford?
Scott Pearson Rails.
Wheeling? Okay, any guests in Rockford or in Wheeling?
Not at the moment.
All right. And is the Illinois State Library in attendance?
Hello, it's Ann Craig and
Lauren Tucker.
Cindy Coletti.
Thank you. Next item, number 5 on the agenda, is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Go ahead, Kate.
Kate moved. Kathy seconded. Is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, opposed? Or abstentions? The motion to adopt the agenda carries. Next item is the approval of the Rail Board minutes, financial reports, and expenditures. The Rail Board minutes, so moved by Dave. The board of October 24th, 2014. Is there a second on approving the board minutes?
Second.
Second by John. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oops. Opposed? I got to pause, I guess.
Delayed. Yeah.
And any abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention from Murray. Next item on the agenda is the Rails financial report, and Jim Krieger is present.
Good afternoon. In your package is the board package financial report for the month of October. Our cash and investment balance is still at a nice high level, $22.1 million. That represents over 25 months of operations coverage. And I've also been saying that it'll decline over the first half of the year, but it hasn't too much. It was 23.4 million at June 30th, so that's only a 1.3 million decline. And the sale of our Geneva facility helped that keep it up. We did through October we had received no Illinois grant payments, but in November thus far we've received one payment toward our area and per capita grant, a payment of $274,000 plus change. And we're expecting a second payment of nearly 1.7 million to arrive hopefully in November, but before the end of the year. Both of these payments are from leftover federal funds from the prior 2 fiscal years, and so those are available earlier in the year. I wanted to note that our budget or actual revenues for fees and services are below budget, mostly because of the delay on getting the Innovation Experts contracts going. But we have started on the Credo reference services. That project has begun, and we've incurred some expenditures, about $15,000 thus far in November, which were immediately billed for reimbursement. Our budget of these type of activities is on a fund balance neutral basis, meaning that any expenditures we incur are passed along or reimbursed by the participating libraries. Also I wanted to mention we received our first E-rate payments from fiscal year 13. Takes a while to get there, but it was about $17,000, and we're expecting quite a bit more in the next few weeks. The budget, I believe, was $56,000, and we're anticipating receiving about $53,000 from these. Our expenditures remain below budget in contractual services and professional services, and as I pointed out, much of the contractual services is the Innovation Experts, which is getting going now. And our personnel expenditures are lower because of delayed hirings and some efficiencies that we've realized. And moving on, there is more news on going forward. We attended the LIRA annual meeting and received our rates that we are going to be paying for the next calendar year, 2015, and they're in two components. One is the basically the liability, the building, the automobile type of expenditures, and those are going to be flat on an annual basis. It's like $100 difference from the prior year annual basis. We joined last March. And on better news, on Workman's Comp, we had no claims thus far this year, and we joined in last March, and we are getting approximately a $13,000 rate reduction overall. So we're very happy about that. So our budget for Workman's Comp will be under budget this year. And also, just to let you know, we are LIRA is starting a program on unemployment compensation. We currently pay on a rate basis to the Department of Employment Security based on our payroll. They are offering a program in which we would switch to being on a reimbursement basis to the state. We would pay premiums in 4 installments, just quarterly, instead of direct payments to the state. We would have a cap on the amount that we would pay for the year. So if our reimbursement somehow got above what our premium was, they would be paying that. And we also have the potential, if we have a very good experience, of actually accumulating money in a savings account, which we might use for next year's, the pot that we pay into, or a lower premium the next year, or even take that out. So it would still be an asset to us. They are saying that most of the clients who subscribe to this get a 20 to 40% reduction in their premiums from what they had been paying. Our budget this year for unemployment is $85,000. So that could be anywhere from a $16,000 to $30,000 savings. So this program will start up January 1st, so we are in the process of applying, and we'll see what our rates are. So I will tell you how that comes out at the January meeting. Yes?
This program, who's running the program, the state?
No, it's through an arm of the company that we have our workman's compensation with, AmTrust. And through our LIRA.
Do you mean
I don't
LIRA?
know if you're.
Pardon?
Do you mean LIRA in general? Do you mean LIRA in general, or do you?
I'm just wondering how LIRA is working with the unemployment.
Oh, okay.
They aren't doing it directly. It's through the insurance company that would be administering this policy, which is AmTrust, which does our workman's comp. And so far we've been happy with AmTrust. So, but basically we would be on a reimbursement basis. So that doesn't mean that if we don't have a terrible year for some reason and have to lay off a lot of people, our premiums the next year will be the same. They will probably go up, but they would have anyway.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, yes, one other item. During the last couple weeks, actually, last week or two, there have been several newspaper articles that appeared about the Illinois Municipal Investment Fund. This is a fund that handles investments for approximately 300 municipalities and other governmental entities. They have two funds, one of which is called their Convenience Fund, and it's designed to operate as an ultra-safe money market type fund. About a little over a year ago, through one of their investment advisors, they also added what are called repurchase agreements to their mix of investments. And repurchase agreements are the short-term purchase of securities with a buyback during a short period back to the original seller, and a small interest rate, a short-term interest rate on those securities in the meantime. Pennant procured for IMET $50.4 million in repurchase agreements backed by securities, by loans that were guaranteed supposedly by the United States Department of Agriculture, and actually issued and sold from a USDA approved lender in the program. So Pennant bought 170 million of these, which they placed 50 million with IMET, and quickly discovered that the loans were fraudulent. So they were not real loans. And then they also sent to USDA a petition to RK, are you guaranteeing them? And the USDA said, no, they're not our loans. They're fraudulent loans. So IMET has put into a separate, taken this out of their fund, and it's in a separate trust now, this 50.4 million, and everybody who had a investment in IMET in this fund had basically 2.8% of their investment placed in this trust, because it was 2.8% of the fund. So Downers Grove, for instance, had about $580,000, which is now temporarily suspended and will take quite a while to get back, to partially recover and hopefully fully, but there's no guarantee on that. Rails did not have such an investment. Our investments are all in the FDIC insured certificates of deposit, or with the Illinois Funds money market fund, which also is considered ultra safe. And but this is the first time in 18 years of IMED's fund management that they've had anything like that, and I've never heard of a fraudulent situation on repos, especially on a guaranteed.
Jim, we were actually just getting ready to invest in IMET too. Literally, we're going to bring it up and vote on it this past month. My understanding was that they changed, "were" being the operative word.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I wanted more information to the table. My understanding was that they changed their investment policy in the last year and didn't notify their clients. That was my understanding. And then that was how some of this may have happened as well.
That they were going into
actually,
repos.
as one of the lucky people that has funds in IMET, they did inform us
They did, okay.
of it at the annual meeting and discussed it, and it was a debt. I mean, everyone was just like, okay, great. And yeah, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it's never a big deal until something like this happens. Unfortunately, we just voted at our last board meeting to pull all of our funds, minus the ones that we can't pull out. And I know a lot of other, and we don't have nearly as much as some do, but I know that is unfortunate because, my board felt that we needed to be fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars, and in light of the fact that there were a lot of other municipalities pulling out large chunks of change, the worry was that people would lose more faith and that it would.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, so we are pulling out, as I know a lot of other people are, and I feel bad because I know that IMET has had a really solid reputation, but we just kind of want to sit back and see.
Yeah.
You can't play with your
Well,
your
it's
money.
not our money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not our money, so we just need to be.
Yeah, Naperville pulled its remaining 20 million out.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think it's just
Glenview
gonna.
did, I believe, and
One
Carrie
after
mentioned that Arlington Heights was in it.
yeah, I mean, it's park district, it's libraries, it's municipalities have been in it the longest. Libraries and park districts have only been allowed to be in it for the last 5 years, I think, 4 or 5. So, I mean, but.
Scary.
And it's unfortunate because it has been such a good thing for organizations. We, saw a huge increase in our interest moving to IMET from, the CDs and, of course, Illinois funds.
Thank you, Jim.
On that note, may I answer
Any
any
questions?
other questions?
Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
Second.
Moved and seconded, and this will require a roll call vote. So, John?
Sarah?
Aye.
Murray?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Karen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Nan?
You bet.
Mary Jo?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Ben is absent. Laura?
Yes,
Okay, she is here.
I'm on the phone.
Yep.
Hi, Laura.
And Dane?
Hi.
Yes.
So she is.
The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of expenditures.
The expenditure amount for the month of October, which you have the listing at the back of the financial report, is $852,013.36. I answer any questions.
Any questions for Jim on the expenditures?
Just
Is
one
there a
question
motion?
for Wheeling.
Okay.
The payment for damaged items, were we reimbursed on those from CTS?
Yes, we're
Yes.
fully reimbursed.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions? Then we need a motion to approve the expenditures.
So moved.
Moved by John,
Second.
seconded by Kathy. And that requires a roll call also.
Sarah? Murray?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Karen? Karen?
Yes. Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Nan?
Yes.
Mary Jo?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
John, yes. Ben is absent. Laura?
Yes.
And Dane?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Next item on the agenda is reports, the first being report from the Rails president. And I have no report other than thanking Mary Jo for taking over as presiding officer last month when I was not able to be here. So thank you to that.
Not a problem.
First committee is John for Consortia Committee.
We have not met as a subcommittee yet.
Okay.
No, but I can give some updates on the consortium
Okay.
committee if you like. The overlay working group is meeting on December 3rd. Main focus of our agenda then will be development and planning for the various focus groups that our consultant will be doing. As a reminder, the consultant is Eric Kramer of Growth Management Consulting, and we have confirmed that he will be here at Burr Ridge in person.
Pleasure.
The next consortium committee meeting on January 19th to do the focus group with that group, and then we are working on scheduling his meetings with the Illinois State Library, Illinois Heartland Library System, and Carly that week. So that'll be the first of 3 rounds of focus groups.
Thank you, Jane. And thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is the Consortia Futures Committee. Kate?
Yes, we're going to be meeting on December 15th. It'll be our first meeting, which we are doing in person. So because it's from a wide geographic region, as many committees and rails are, I felt, and do you agree that for the first time to make sure we met in person, we're going to be really kind of setting the groundwork for how we're going to meet the charge that we have set for the committee. So I will have more information at a future meeting.
And do I understand that meeting is in Sycamore?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. And now the Delivery Committee. You're on again.
Back to back. We did meet. I know I've been saying for the last few months that we would be meeting, and so we actually did meet. A few things. The delivery with Continental, CTS, continues to improve. There was a survey done of the SWAN libraries. Some issues were highlighted in those, and Rail staff and CTS have worked worked on all of the issues that were pointed out in the survey. There is still, I think, we discussed that there is still some perhaps issues with training at member libraries, and that will always be, I think, a certain amount of that. We also discussed outsourcing and next steps for that, and at this time we really feel that we need to make sure that everything with the pilot project here in Burr Ridge is perfect, and there are still some things that need to be tweaked. And so before thinking about moving onward, we want to make sure that this is really good so that the rollout for any future ones would be completely seamless and hopefully not happen on a really horrible weather day like they did last January. We also have been, Rails has been doing, the member libraries have been doing a fine count this week for delivery. That also presented another challenge to looking at doing outsourcing at another location. What Dee and the other Rail staff have discovered is that the counting is not very consistent, which we've known for a while, but this was kind of another round of, we thought we were being more consistent in that it actually wasn't. So this fine count is going to be really critical in helping us understand exactly what kind of numbers we're looking at. And so Dee reported to me earlier that the fine count is going very well. So hopefully we're getting 100% participation, and
It's better.
okay, so it's a work in progress. We will continue to work on improving, getting more participation. Jane has been working with SWAN on a delivery label automation project, and happy to report that the application of an automated label in Millennium works wonderfully, and they were able to get it working. But unfortunately, as we know, SWAN is migrating to CIRCE, and we have many other CIRCE systems out there, and there's a bit of a snag. So we're still working on it, and
This will be a long-term project, and we will also be coordinating with the Illinois State Library, so that it meets, whatever we move towards meets statewide standards as recommended by the ISLDAC committee.
And speaking of the ISLDAC committee, the ISLDAC report, which don't you want to say swizzle sticks? Mark has been working with other people throughout the state on implementing the recommendations of the report. I don't know if you wanted to say anything in particular. There's a lot of stuff that they're working on.
Yeah, the thing that we're focusing a lot of attention on right now is to roll out the partnership. You know, the community-based partnership where we start to group smaller libraries with the larger libraries to, in essence, in a roundabout way, provide them with 5-day-a-week delivery. You know, where they may be on 1-day or 2-day-a-week delivery now. So that's one of the biggest things that we're focusing on within my group right now. So.
Mark, regarding the community partnerships, are they focusing on pairing up the libraries, or putting the smaller libraries with the larger? I mean, is that what you're doing in this committee at this point? Is trying to determine where the community concept spot will be?
Yeah, the way we started looking at this, we started looking at towns, what's in each town.
Okay.
And, does it make sense to actually say, let's put this elementary school and this high school with this public? So that's where we started. We started looking from
So you're
that
looking at the logistic end of it at this
exactly,
point. Okay.
from that standpoint first before we do anything. And this is only on paper, by the way. We haven't approached anyone. Except a few people that, we have communicated because it was so obvious that this needed to take place. But primarily, we're doing this on paper to see what it looks like before we then roll it out, because we will have the agreement that's going to go with the, when we sit down with the member, we also have the agreement that we want them to not necessarily sign, but understand.
And if I remember correctly, during ISLDAC, this was something that the committee endorsed as it was going to be something that we would be doing, not an option, correct?
Right, exactly. This is something that we definitely want to move forward with, because I think as we continue to standardize and to gain efficiency, this is the best thing for the system overall.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much. Next item is the Executive Committee, and we have not met, so there's no report there. Operations and Policy. Operations Committee, Ben is not here, but the Operations and Policy Committee met this morning with Mary Jo chairing that. So,
we are bringing forward the. There's a secondary employment report that we approved, and we're bringing that forward. We're also bringing forward the military credit for rails to participate from Barb. There have been changes, and I'll let her explain what she found out when she comes back in. She was right back there.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda, so
for
she
later,
can move
yes.
forward. Yeah.
All right. The System Membership Standards Committee, Kathy.
We are meeting December 1st, or December 8th,
Eighth.
sorry.
Scared
for
me.
the full committee, which is, a little over 40 people, I believe. This week, I don't remember which day it was, Dee, Veranda, I had a conference call with Sarah Laughlin from, I don't remember where she's from, but she's a consultant.
Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes, and she's a consultant and has worked in libraries and has done this type of thing before. And to have her facilitate at least that first session and actually having that conversation and getting down and figuring it out was really helpful, because I was kind of like all over the place in my head. So we have a plan of a plan. And Dee, I did see, I just opened my email today that you did draft a general draft to start. And so hopefully on December 9th, we'll have some start on this. Get some subcommittees going and start having a conversation.
Good. Thank you. Any questions for Kathy? Next item is the Executive Director's Report.
Yes, thank you, Bill. You have my report in your packet. I just have a couple of things. On page 2, I did mention the new contract with OCLC, and I just want to correct that it's not a 5-year contract. It's a 2-year contract with an option to renew for 2 years. So that apparently got worked out in the contract negotiations, and we're just finding out about all more of the details. So stay tuned. That all remains to be seen. I know that Veranda is already having some interesting, and Amanda, some interesting conversations about that. Under the leadership and innovation section, I want to apologize. When I write this report, I write notes to myself, and I wrote this the week that I was all over Illinois, literally, and I think I was too bleary-eyed. So what those little things mean are, I did attend a meeting along with Ann Slaughter that the State Library organized and hosted of the Digital Public Library of America, which was held at the Newberry Library, and this was it was really interesting gathering of stakeholders, I guess, in digitization, libraries and museums, and in an attempt to create an Illinois hub for the Digital Public Library. I think the best thing, if you're interested in this, is to go to the Digital Public Library of America website, which is dp.la, something like that, www.dp.la.org. And then Dominican, I am on their Library School Advisory Committee, and they're going through the accreditation process right now, so I'm...
When does that happen? Because I feel like that just happened.
I know, it's amazing how the time flies. So they have asked the advisory committee members to host like focus group kinds of conversations about graduates and our experience with that whole with employees. So glad to do that, and I think that's all I wanted to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, go ahead, Kate.
I have a question about the OCLC
Yep.
contract. I know one of the
I'll
things that
try
was
to answer it.
discussed extensively at Prairie Cat was the cost.
Yes.
And are those going to be renegotiated? Because those are based on numbers that are now
No.
No. So they'll be. I mean, I know for some libraries it's great, but I know for other libraries it's a really big hit, and it was based on numbers that no longer accurately reflect where they're at.
Right.
How long ago were the numbers?
Well, I believe that they were from like 05 or 3. I know Judy mentioned the year. I mean, I know it has been an extensive length of time, and I know
Right.
that the numbers, like some libraries that are a quarter the size of New Lenox, are paying twice as much as we are. That there is not a
Yes, it's a big problem. As I referenced, there are multiple cases, and certainly Kendall could wax eloquently on this topic, but there are cases where a library's fee to OCLC is more than its fee to its LSAP or consortium, and this is a growing problem. It's something that everybody, I think that, Heartland is aware of, the State Library is aware of, we're all concerned about it, and I think that's one of the reasons that the contract is a 2-year contract with an option to renew, because I think that there is some interest, and certainly we have talked about this in Rails, of doing some research and into how, every library, every state in America has to catalog books and do interlibrary loan, but they don't all do it like we do, and it's cheaper for some of them. So we think the way to go right now is to do this for a couple more years, try to see if we can figure out how to mitigate some of these cost issues, and do some, research, maybe a, pilot project or something on a different relationship with OCLC cataloging interlibrary loan, because it's getting out of hand.
Well, and do we know why the statistics the current statistics from our IPLARs are not being used? I mean, I would assume our interlibrary loan.
that it would be updated yearly.
That would be an assumption.
It's a contract, between the State Library and OCLC, and I think it's a kind of and it might. Maybe Ann wants to say. I don't want to put you on the spot, Ann. I think these are all questions that are very difficult, I think, to figure out. Do you want to say anything?
Ann, do you want to add?
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No. Just going back a couple of steps, the agreement that was just signed with OCLC was secured after a competitive bid process. And the group that actually was convened to draft and issue the RFP was a statewide group with statewide membership, including people from all three library systems and all types of libraries. And we did look at this issue of what do we want to do? Do we want to continue? Do we want to put forward an RFP that would essentially, we could pitch OCLC and try something new, and the group unanimously came together and decided that we still needed a couple of years to essentially work through the conversation statewide about bibliographic utility and interlibrary loan provider. So I just want to assure everyone that this was secured after a competitive bid process. The other important little tidbit in there is that companies could come together and bid on the opportunity. For example, if Sky River wanted to partner with Autographics, they could come together and bid on the offering. So OCLC was selected based on points scored from the reviews of their responses. Now, their pricing. The pricing that we live with today was, in fact, negotiated as part of the big group services contract agreement in 2004, 2005. It was based on actual activity with OCLC. So every time someone did any kind of transaction, OCLC kept track of that, and those numbers were how the prices were set in the initial group services contract now a decade ago. In the meantime, we have now, this is our second RFP where OCLC set those prices. They were supposed to, anyone who responded to the offer, not just OCLC, but anyone who responded to the offer was supposed to look at the libraries on the list of current subscribers and say, okay, this library gets this price, this library gets this price. So want to be really super duper clear, the state library is not setting the current round of prices, nor did we set the round of prices from the last agreement, nor is there any administrative overhead that's tacked on to the pricing that the libraries in this state see. So a number of libraries have pointed out exactly the same thing that Kate and Kathy have pointed out, which is, why is Cindy's library paying so much less than my library, and we're the same size, or even her library might be bigger? The answer that OCLC gives libraries, not us, because they're the ones who see the appeals that come in from libraries associated with this agreement, the answer that they give the library is that one of us is getting a really, really good deal, and the other one is paying pretty much what they should be paying. So just be grateful, library, that is not paying as much as Cindy's library, that, if we were really charging you what we should be charging you, you would be charged what Cindy's library is charged. So anyone who wants to appeal their cost, I encourage you to do so you too can have, either sometimes there is a reduction in the fee that they charge, but many, many times we've seen that libraries get that response, that they're just really getting a super duper duper good deal, and your library isn't getting quite as good a deal. So I guess that the moral of this story is that this group that came together to write the RFP, they decided that, yes, a couple more years were needed where we just needed to go forward in the context that we currently live in, and that while that whole scenario played out, indeed, as Dee said, another group needed to look at what are some maybe alternate solutions. I want to say quite publicly that the state library, we get a lot of grief about OCLC. We get a lot of grief about the OCLC costs. And you know, it is our fondest wish that we did not have to pay any OCLC charges for anything. That would be, oh my gosh, that would be just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Right now, we're currently paying, on top of what all the libraries pay, we pay another $1.2 or $1.3 million for First Search, it won't be called that much longer, World Share Access, so that all of the Illinois holdings that are out there are exposed and searchable on the open web, as well as the access to the databases that have traditionally been associated with First Search. So, you know, this is, I just want you to know, this is not just, well, I think you get the point. It's been a very long process for all of us here as well. So, does that help answer any of those questions?
Yes.
Yes, and I think that just to add even more is that, this is a situation that was a relationship, a landscape, whatever, that was established a long time ago in Illinois. It's done many, many wonderful things. And libraries depend on it. And I think that, the idea that we could just pull the rug out from under their feet quickly was just not, as much as I perhaps would have wanted to do that, was not feasible. And so what we need to do is to be sure that we have a good replacement. So I think that's where we are right now.
Okay.
And in the meantime, yes, this cost thing is really a problem for some of our smaller, underfunded libraries.
What worries me is that it prevents them from joining an LSAP.
Well, we can't let that happen.
And
And it doesn't need to, because another thing is that we do some of this to ourselves too, because the state library does not say that you have to be a member of OCLC to be a member of an LSAP. The LSAPs are saying that. So we have to stop doing that, I think, if we want to begin to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So
I should say, too, that there will be a letter coming from our office about the cost for fiscal year 16 that will be, once again, those invoices will be managed through Heartland. They've been a great partner for us. The cost of administering that billing arrangement, the state library covers that cost. That is not included in what the libraries pay. So you should be seeing a letter from our office in the near future about what the fiscal 16 costs will be. Many have asked, well, gee, is it more? Is it less? What can you tell us? The only thing I can tell you is that just like everything else in the world, some things go up. So, some libraries may see a little reduction, some may see a little bump. we will get those letters out as soon as we can.
And this is Jane Plass. Last time the libraries were informed of the cost, I believe they were given the cost for both 2 years. So will that letter also include fiscal 17 costs?
Yes, it can, absolutely, it will. We're totally okay to do that, so that was going to be part of the letter. With any agreement that's entered into with the state of Illinois, it can, even though these agreements can be extended for a number of years, they really only go year by year. So I think that sometimes there's a little bit of we're tied in for another 5,000 years. And as Dee commented, it's really a 2-year agreement with options to renew. And those options to renew are in there because the RFP process is so long and difficult for everyone concerned. So takes a tremendous amount of staff effort and resources, as well as involving a number of people in the library community. So just to have that cushion, we have it. So just, I don't think I made that point either.
Thank you, Ann. The next item on the agenda is the Rail Service and Operations Report.
Yes.
which-
Thank you.
Yep.
Have that in your packet also. Just a couple of things to highlight. We have had some really exciting e-read activity occur since this was written, I think. We're starting to see a lot of sort of the bigger libraries joining. Schaumburg joined recently, and Oak Park just joined, and they, as libraries with over 1 million circ, they went into it thinking they were going to have to pay extra, but some of the other big news is that Baker and Taylor is what's the word? There's a moratorium on the extra fee that's assessed to the libraries of over 1 million circ, because they're really interested in getting these big libraries involved as well. So that's really exciting news, really exciting. And then I did want to say that on page 5, under consulting, there at the bottom, it's actually the number of libraries that have joined our Management Association HR consulting offer is actually up now to over 20, I heard from Joe. So it's really doing.
You wrote this?
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
Yep.
It's like in a week.
Yeah, I know. So
Now it's nearing the deadline. So
it's yeah. Well, and they've been great. Joe was just telling me yesterday, Chris Schneider, who was their sort of business development guy, has been out and about visiting libraries himself, kind of doing member engagement work on our behalf. And
they do a pretty good job.
yeah, they really do. And
Joe has been out and about a lot.
Yes,
Me too.
yeah. So we think this is really good. It was hard to explain, I think, in some cases, but I think that the libraries who participate in it are going to be really happy and are going to be the best advertisement for doing it again.
Yeah, it's too bad you can't have everyone have like an HR issue and let them do like a trial run and then be like, see?
Yeah, right, I know.
They probably do have HR issues.
They just aren't
They
aware.
don't understand.
Yeah.
They probably need to just understand they can just call now and
I know, it's
get some help on that.
it's kind of like you have to do it,
Right.
Yeah. That's
Okay. Any other questions on the service?
I had a quick question on another item. Oh, not on that one, but on another.
Yeah. Okay. What?
You're going to talk about other things in the report first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The consulting directory.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more?
I'll let Jane. I'm not.
We are actually meeting Monday afternoon. I think we are very close. Brian Smith has been working on some tweaks. Joe Philippik has been starting to reach out to the consultants that he is, kind of earmarked. We might want to include, so that once we launch, we have at least some content in it. We'll certainly won't be continuing development. Our hope is to launch that in early 2015, possibly in January.
And are you looking for additional content from
We will be.
members, but not just
The way this will work, it'll be kind of three-pronged. As Rails, develops consulting services that we're offering, like MAI and working with Lyrasis on digitization, and we are also investigating possibilities for technology consulting. That will be a place where members can go to find out, what we are offering. We also see this as a way of capturing peer-to-peer support. So members who have some degree of expertise and are willing to share that, are willing to be a mentor to new librarian, new directory.
So are those it's going to be a blended directory
It will
then?
be a blended directory. Members will be able to, you will need to log in through L2, but members will be able to put that information in themselves and code it to say, I'm available for, like phone consulting or, up to 20 minutes or whatever, is reasonable for whatever the person wants to do. And then also an opportunity for outside consultants to have their information recorded. That will be a vetted process. Joe will need to approve that.
And then will there be a mechanism in which, I'm thinking similar on LinkedIn where you can leave, not the endorsement nonsense, but actual, like I worked with this person on this project and they were X type of thing where, you can get those peer,
Referral.
that's the word. Yes.
Reviews.
Yeah, a review from,
Not during the initial rollout.
Okay.
Something we could look at and develop.
Will Rails have any responsibility for the quality of the folks that we're listing on our site? Will it come back to us in any way?
like
so-
we're inherently recommending
Yes,
them by having them on the
We
site.
will have a disclaimer. There will be a disclaimer. And if Joe or some other Rails staff will be vetting, especially the outside consultants, not just admin.
So this will be open to people who aren't necessarily in Illinois, either they could be.
No, you will
No,
need
you have
to
to
log
have an
into
L2.
L2.
Okay.
So it will be.
Which will be a great way to encourage people to make sure they have an L2.
But it's up to date.
And then you'll need to be a system member, whether it's Heartland or however, who has L2 memberships. Everybody who's a system member of Heartland Rails, State Library,
I'm
whatever.
sure at this point.
No, but the
They
people
also
who are the consultants can be from anywhere. They have to be L2 people also.
No.
Oh, right. I would imagine, like Eric Kramer might be someone.
Or Sarah Lockwood.
Okay,
Yes, but there will be they won't be able to post
their own stuff.
directly. It'll be a different process.
No, but they're listed. They get a
Yes.
listing. That's what
Yes.
I was
Right, the
trying to
consultants
Who gets to add a shingle to that roof?
Right. Excellent. I am very much looking forward to seeing that. I think that's going to be
Good
that's
service
great.
to members.
Great job on behalf of the Rails staff. I think this is very, very valuable. And I had one other question in terms of the e-read statistics. I wasn't sure if the e-read statistics were a snapshot at this exact moment, or if they were inclusive of like the addition I was thinking of with Prairie Cat, where we're joining, but they're not officially joined yet. We voted to join, so this is just a snapshot in that moment.
Now, yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure how.
No, live libraries.
Okay, great.
Also, the statistics, remember, for the preceding months, so the statistics in your report were all from October.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to.
Any other questions for our service and operations report?
Yeah, one additional update. Yesterday, I received the approval of our first records disposal certificate. So this is the a good
It's
step.
really great.
I would love to hear how you got them to call you back. So
Because we're Rails. We jumped to the front of that long.
Well, and I have to, several people have been, working on this, but I have to give a special kudos to our administrative assistant, Jody Rubel, who has, been doing the bulk of the heavy lifting, both metaphorically and.
Yeah.
So this first step involves records from MLS and its various predecessor systems, including SLS, CLS, and CMLS. The next step will be and Jody will be coordinating this, to work with the Illinois State archives on development of a records retention schedule for Rails that will include the remainder of the predecessor legacy system so that we can move forward with one retention schedule, which is what we wanted to do in the first place.
Has she found anything interesting?
Yes.
There's
I
lots.
bet she.
We can have a whole show and tell one. Remember when?
Yeah, right.
We realized that MLS was fiscal agent for quite a few projects.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Any other questions? Next item is the Illinois State Library report.
Hi, everybody. Me again.
Yes.
Hi, Ann.
Okay, the digital imaging grants, we just finished the review of those grant applications. We will be getting those awards out and the announcement about the awards out very, very quickly. Thanks to everyone who helped us with that process. Had a lot of great applications. We have a number of CE happenings coming up. I Lead USA. Those applications are due on December 19th. And Gwen, you got anything to say?
Oh, boy.
You want to come up here and say
Sure
what
I
you want
do.
to say?
Hello, everybody. Excuse my appearance.
Here,
Oh,
Gwen.
here I go.
Have a
Okay.
seat, girl.
We are looking for a few good men and women to join us as mentors, instructors, and we really, really, really would like you guys to help us create and gather folks to be on teams. So that's my plea.
And Gwen, if I want to do this and I don't have a team, is there a way to
There
help me?
certainly is. We have
What
a
would that
match.
be?
We have a Match.com.
Yes, Mommy.
We've had a few experiences with this. We have a Match.com of a SurveyMonkey survey set up so that if a person would like to be on a team, all they have to do is come to our website. We'll direct you there and put their information in, and then we won't put you together, but we will distribute this list to everybody that's interested in being on a team so that they can decide if there's enough synergy and chemistry there for them to come together and become and form a team. Any more questions?
I don't think so, but thanks, Gwen.
You're welcome.
Vandella, synergy applications are due December 15, correct?
That is correct, and encouraging all who can apply.
That's right. So we're looking for a few good men and women there too, aren't we? Absolutely. And then SPILME, our statewide public library management institute, those applications will be available on December 1st, and they are due March 6th. So we've got a lot coming up. Certification, oh boy, begins January 2nd.
Really?
Again?
We just did.
All right. I know.
We did do it a year ago.
We know.
Well, it seems like yesterday.
So easy.
Yes, it does seem like yesterday, but we didn't want you to think we had forgotten about you. So January 2nd, certification begins and runs through
The 31st of March.
the 31st of March. So that is coming up as well. I am just as pleased as I possibly can be to tell you that we have a new manager of our literacy area. This is Cindy's old job. Cindy's now the head of library development. Her former job, Kathy Dautka, who was at Harper, is now with us as the manager of the literacy section. So, yay! That's a wonderful thing. As Dee mentioned, we had a big meeting at the Newberry Library on November 13, trying to get together stakeholders in forming a service hub for the Digital Public Library of America. So I think that is a long and winding road, but one that we certainly want to start down. Those applications, according to DPLA, the applications for states to be service hubs will be out beginning sometime in December or January. So we look forward to that whole process. So any questions about any of that? See, I can be brief, you guys. It's true.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is new business. Approval of membership changes. Amanda?
Hello, everyone. So as Rhonda has previously mentioned, we're working on a list of about 7 developmental libraries that are a result of issues with legacy systems. So on November 3rd, I visited one of the developmental libraries, and that is the Willow Springs School District 108. Since the state library has the approval for the change of membership, we are requesting that the board recommend this library for full membership. I have included it in your packet, the library summary, and I'd like to include or mention a few highlights from my visit. One is the school, as a library teacher is what they call her. She's retired and she has worked at the school for 43 years, and she is extremely enthusiastic, and she's really great to meet and chat with. She is very, very interested in serving the community. They have a story time for preschool, even though they don't have a preschool there. They open up to the public, so the families can come in with their preschool kids, and they do regular story time for K through 5. They also have a family reading night once a year, which is a really big deal. They have anyone in the community from Justice or Willow Springs can come, and they have a theme. This year it was reading across the country, so they brought in some cultural things as well, so that was really cool. And when I was there, right before my visit, they had the community dentist come in, and he did checkups in the library.
Oh my
goodness. It was really, really interesting.
Great.
So it was a great visit. They have a brand new library that was constructed, I think, within the last 5 years. It's a great, beautiful space. So
That's great.
Good. Are there any questions? All right. Well, thank you.
Is there a motion that we
I'll
approve?
make a motion that we approve Willow Springs School District.
Dave will second it, all right. Any discussion?
Are there criteria that we use for new members? Is that like when is a library not qualified to be a member?
Who would like to answer this question?
I'm happy. Well, first I think
Amanda, or Rhonda?
I'll sit next to my fellow Chippewa. We worked at the same library once. Not at the same time.
At the same time, yeah.
Not at the same time. So here's the deal. The current list of developmental members are as a result because of the systems merging, having different membership requirements. So they were kind of, we received them as a result of that. They currently all do meet our membership requirements, which I'm happy to share with you. It's just that each member, to become a full member, we have to do a site visit, confirm that they meet those criteria, and the board has to make a recommendation to the state library. The current membership criteria, which is what I think is what lands the library on the developmental list now, if one were to come on now. To date, all of the members we visited to become full members have met the criteria. There's only one case that I didn't bring a member forward because they didn't meet the criteria so far.
And the criteria are?
15 hours. They have to be open at least 15 hours a week, have a paid employee working during those 15 hours a week. The library has to be centrally located. They have to have a bibliographically organized collection.
Physical collection. Physical, does it say
it
physical?
says bibliographically organized
okay.
collection. So that it's a pretty basic criteria that is also, the system uses, that is also in the state administrative rule for membership as well.
And the reason that we're having the System Membership Standards Committee is because there's been a lot of feedback from the members about the need for stronger standards than those.
Okay.
Because those
Because
are the standards across type,
right.
too. I think it'll be
And
important.
it's and the standards for Chicago Public Library and this little library.
Yeah, I was looking at the map outside of,
Yeah.
of all the underserved areas. And,
Yeah.
You know, you want to have a criteria that's going to help people that want to become members that are in some of those areas.
Exactly. And also support libraries and help them understand that the infrastructure needs to be in place for them to best serve their community and best work with other libraries in the area to serve across Illinois.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Does that answer?
Yeah, that's great.
Great.
Any other questions? We have a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oops, I forgot. I got to pause. And any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is facilities report. Mark will expand on the facilities information which we have here.
You come over here, Mark. We thought it was time to give you an update on our buildings.
Okay, you've got a nice little summary here in your packet that we put together. Gives you a breakdown of what we've got at each facility. It lists all of our current service centers along with the rent and lease information, along with any recent improvements, pending projects, and current issues. I can just start off here in Burr Ridge. You know, some of our current projects is the roof that you guys heard earlier. We actually asked them to stop at 1 o'clock so that we could get through the meeting. So the roof is being replaced. We're also working on getting the tuck pointing done, which is our precast wall panels outside have started to rise because of the water has seeped in and the steel has started to expand. So the tuck pointing is going to prevent that from creating additional damage. So that's some of the projects that we've got going on here. I know a couple of things here that we need to replace. We need to replace our compressor on the HVAC. That's a nice little project that we need to get done. We just had the roof, the parking lot done just recently. So that's what's going on in Burr Ridge.
Are you going to mention the grants that you're applying for?
I am. I'm
Okay,
going to
good.
touch on that last
All
because
right,
that's
okay.
going to be a big one.
All right, good. Okay, fine.
Save the best for last.
All right. Sorry, Mark.
No problem. So then if we jump down to Coal Valley, we've done a lot of work out there at Coal Valley. We put in new HVAC systems, furnaces. We've got new signage out there in Coal Valley. Alarm system's been installed. We've got a heater in the garage for our sorters. Those guys have worked in the code for years. You know, we thought we would, give them a blanket now, so help them out. So we're also going to be replacing the lights. We do have a grant, and I'll touch on that now. We actually received a grant for. The project itself is only like $4,600, but we were actually able to get a grant for like $2,400 of that 46, so 52% from the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation was able to provide us with those funds. So that's the one grant that I was going to touch on, but since we were talking on Coal Valley, just thought I'll share that now. And then also, if we flip over on the other page, on the back side of that, we've got multiple facilities in Rockford that I'm sure you guys are aware of. The Code Road, which is the one that we currently operate out of, but then we also have the Morrissey Drive facility that we've had for quite a few years now. And this is a long-term lease from a previous predecessor system that hopefully we will be out of in the next 3 years. So I think it's June the 30th, 2017, when that lease will be up. So then we will then just have the one facility in Rockford.
Now, Mark, we receive rent on that one, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That covers the cost of the monthly rent and we receive $8,500.
Yeah, we receive a
Yes.
little over $20,000 a month.
Okay, so
for rent.
we own that building?
No, we don't.
Subletting it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're subletting that building, through 2017.
So the costs coming in, the fees coming in are more than paying up for the costs going out?
Yes.
But we are the tenant, the first tenant,
Mhm.
So when you've got, it says cumulative HVAC repair costs, so we're the ones liable for that?
Correct, up to $25,000 for the term of the lease agreement. We're pretty much out of that. I think we've put so much into that HVAC system, so I think if we've got a couple thousand left, and I think for the remaining 3 years, we've put a lot of money into that HVAC system out there, so we've paid for it a couple times, I think, so.
And are we carrying insurance on that, or is the sublease carrying insurance on that?
They actually carry the insurance.
Oh, they're doing renter's insurance.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I guess we can now jump over to the grants. Okay, I spoke briefly already concerning the first grant that we received for Coal Valley from the ICC. We're also talking on with the Department of Commerce and then also the Illinois Clean Energy on possibly an extremely large grant for possible solar panels for this particular building here. This is an all-electric building, so our electric bills are astronomical every month, regardless if it's summer or winter. We always have an extremely high bill. We're looking at the total project being quite large, about 1.7 million. We're looking to get over $1 million, hopefully from the two organizations. 250,000 we're asking from the Department of Commerce, and then another 775,000 from the Illinois Clean Energy. So this is something that we would definitely put into our plan of service and then bring to you guys as we get closer. We actually, believe it or not, I just finished the grant application yesterday. So it was just submitted yesterday for the Illinois Clean Energy. So we should know something within the next couple of months. If they're looking for more information, are they going to approve us or whatever? So that will bring more information to the board as we receive it. So. But that was the big one that we're hoping that, and if we put the solar panels on, this is a very unique project, by the way, because typically the solar panels are typically just on the roof, but we're looking at doing ground coverage as well.
You have so much land in the back, we're not
But
using
yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Baseball games and stuff.
So what kind of ROI are you projecting for that? Because I know that that's one of the key factors that they look at with those.
It's, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me. I can get the report, and I can bring it to the next meeting, and I can share a lot more information with you guys. But it's like we're going to be generating maybe 482,000 watts or something that was going to reduce us by about 42% on a monthly basis, in which it would, reduce our bill. So that's almost cutting it in half. So I think that's.
What is our typical bill?
About 7,000 to 8,000 a month at Burr Ridge.
Right.
It's a little lower. Doesn't get that much lower. It's generally 7,000 to 8,000.
Mine's almost.
Sometime higher.
3,000.
Can get higher in.
Right.
I think
right.
that's probably the low.
Yeah. I think, any savings, honestly, on that is good, but 40% is great.
Yeah.
Well, and even if it was a 10-year return, which usually these types of things aren't, usually you're looking at, 5 to 7, or even 3 to 5, depending. But I think that in terms of being innovative and modeling for the possibilities for our members, this, I think, has enormous potential. It's very exciting.
I'm thinking about looking at it just because I have a lot of land. I never thought about the ground cover, but I have.
Right.
Yeah, I have 14 acres of land that I'm only using like 6. So
Right.
I think about that when I get back from vacation.
And we're looking at a 7-year return on investment, a 7-year return on investment.
Oh, so that's well within their scope usually for those. So
Right.
That's great.
Right. The panels itself, have a 20-year warranty, so they do start to decline after after 5 to 15 years, they do start to decline. But overall, our expenses on maintenance and things like that for the first 5 years should be zero, for the first 5 to 6 years. And then we would then start to pay something probably in year 6 or 7, where we would start paying.
Well, and I would imagine that the return would even, that's assuming costs for electricity staying constant through the next, and I'm sure, the odds of that happening.
Yeah.
Right. The biggest challenge, because we have to do this in 2 phases, we know for a fact that the village would not have a problem with the roof, but the ground cover is something new to them. So that we're going to, and we have been working with a consultant, by the way, to help us with the RFP that we're going to put together. we've got to convince them that it's a good thing to actually put ground cover, panels out into the in our parking lot. So that's going to be the next battle that we'll have to actually deal with. But we think, because we've had an initial meeting with the village, they were very receptive to it. So we think that they may. The problem that we see is, we're partially in a residential neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And we're partially in we're half and half, commercial and residential.
Could
so
be an issue.
The way the ordinance is written right now, any type of panels have to be covered with a panel, a wall or something of that nature. So if we built a 20-foot wall, that defeats the purpose of having the solar panels. So that's one of the things that we're hoping that the village is going to compromise on. When they have their meetings with the residents, they have to understand the purpose, more of the good versus from the cosmetic standpoint, because they're going to be able to see these from their balconies and things of that nature. So that's what we have to work through. So we are going to look at this as a two-phase project. The first phase, which is the roof, should not be a problem whatsoever. It would be probably the ground cover where we may have a little more of a challenge and a fight on our hands to convince the village that that's the definitely way to go. But we think from a PR standpoint that, like you said, that, they would look at this and say, it makes sense. We're doing good because we're saving trees, we're saving all type of things, the CO2 in the air that we're.
Well, and modeling for a ton of other governmental agencies that might look at this and be like, oh, why have we never thought about that? I mean, the potential for increased exposure is huge.
It would be a first year out here in Burr Ridge. It would be the first, so, it could be a model, I agree, so.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll bring more information later as we get more information, as we get information back from the two departments to find out, are they going to provide the money, because that's going to be a main factor if, should we actually move forward with the RFP, so. Great. Can I answer any? Yes, Sarah.
I like the idea. I kind of like the idea of the modeling. I'm just wondering if we could have regular reports on how much we're saving or the benefits of it, so we can share that with our libraries.
Mm-hmm.
You bet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other thing, let me add this as well. One of the things when we start to gain energy, there's credits. Jim, what is it called again? Those credits that we would be?
RECs, renewable energy credits.
We'll also be
sell.
That we would actually be able to sell, which would bring in what we've calculated about 12,000 to 13,000 a year as well, which is also going to actually reduce our expenses as well. So, so it's additional things, that we'll definitely share. We'll be able to, put some charts together to show exactly where we were before and then where our energy costs are now. So yeah, those would be very easy for us to put together.
Thank you.
What do you mean by you could sell the RECs? What does that mean you can sell? Mean that you can sell electricity?
I believe
To
this
other
all
entities?
comes from the state's goal to have, I think, 25% of its energy usage coming from renewable sources.
Okay.
And as various entities do these things like solar panels and that, they are able to, if the power companies are not meeting their goals of I think the power coming in from them, hit that 20 is renewable energy.
Okay.
They can buy from people who are using solar panels these certificates that will count against their 25% goal. I think that's the gist of how this works, but our savings will come both from the selling of these RECs and our actual power savings.
Right.
That's all part of the return.
Right.
Is that like when the windmills, when they make more energy than the business or farm would actually use, they can sell that? Is it kind of the same thing?
I think so.
Not
experts on this yet, but that's.
We'll give you another
Two
month.
different
I know you're
products.
going to know by then. Yeah.
It is,
Same basic concept.
I don't have another question, but I did just have I wanted to have a comment, which is, I think this spreadsheet that you put together is wonderful. I know it's like, oh, okay, they put together a spreadsheet, but I know that within that spreadsheet, Mark and Jane visited every facility and evaluated, and a lot of work went into this. And so I just want to say kudos, because I think that this is incredibly helpful from a standpoint of getting a really good, nice, big picture snapshot. And thank you for all of the work that I know you guys had to put in to put this one item in our board packet together, because I know it was a lot of work. And I think it's great.
I like to have this just a one snapshot because I kind of forget what we have.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of changes.
That's the beauty of it. It really.
We still have a lot of property left. We sold a lot too.
Yep.
Oh, no, we have to explain the systems to people. Right. This is,
Yes.
Any other questions for Mark? The next item on the agenda is D, discussing the Coal Valley.
Speaking of property.
Yes.
We own.
We will not get off property yet.
Right. So Coal Valley, I think, has been on the market the longest of all of our buildings. There has been no activity in the past year.
Almost no activity.
Almost no activity, period. So I think it would be, our current listing agreement expires in January. We would like the board to approve removing it from the real estate market. At this point, even if there's no activity, there's a couple reasons. Even if there's no activity, just the fact that it's kind of out there is somewhat, staff is aware of that, and it just kind of a sense of unease, even with nothing happening. Maybe we evaluate a different broker for next time. Just take it off, take a fresh look at it. Maybe it's time to have a conversation with the municipalities out there as to whether there's any interest on their part. So if that's kind of the situation, it's just nothing's happening.
When Mark and I did our visits with the staff at each facility, one of the comments from the Coal Valley staff was it creates a degree of uncertainty, not only with staff, but also with members in the area. And this facility has been in the market since before the merger. PAL's actually put it on the market. We are currently on our third broker, and there has been, no significant difference in working with the different brokers. I think it's an issue of market.
And it's not a good, if there wasn't.
It is.
It's not a good market, and it's
is.
a very unusual building in that it was built to be a library system headquarters. At the time, they had a collection, and so there are actually traditional library stacks that are providing structural support.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't understand that comment back when we had the original facilities report done, until I actually went out and saw it, that yes, somebody who wanted to remove those stacks would actually have to, bring in, some steel beams or something. So it would be a major project.
It has no street presence.
No.
You actually drive by it, you can't even see it because it's down below. It's an unfortunate situation. So I think we need to take a fresh look at it and see.
And realistically, while we are still doing delivery in-house for the Prairie Cat and related areas, we need a presence there of some sort.
Oh, yeah.
I will make a motion to remove the Coal Valley Service Center from the real estate market. Are we doing it as of January 7th or immediately?
When our agreement expires.
Yeah. Is there a second?
Second.
Murray, second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is extending e-read rebate to independent consortia. D?
Okay.
Next page.
Thank you. Well, you have a memo in your packet from Veranda about this, which also includes a spreadsheet, or actually a chart, that shows you of the other consortia and what their costs would be to join eRead as a group. We've had a lot of success with this program with the LSAPs. The only LSAP that has not joined at this point is Swan, and I think that is mostly because they have other things that they're working on, like a major migration.
Yeah.
This has been a real, as I mentioned earlier, eRead is really growing. And I think some of the reasons that it's growing is because it's growing. I mean, it just it feeds itself. The more money that we can put into the collection, and all of this money goes, for content, the more attractive it is. And we are very aggressive in terms of, buying multiple copies to meet demand, and that is certainly not always the case. So we think that this is a really great way of building eRead even more. We think that with this hiatus, whatever you want to call it, on the Unbound fee, Unbound is what Baker Taylor calls the program for the libraries that have over 1 million CERC, of the public libraries. That's even more of an incentive. So, we would pay 30% of the total for each of these, which the total of that is only $55,000, which again would go into content. So, did you want to add anything, Veranda? Did I sum that up okay?
The required Unbound moratorium is through June 2015 currently, with the option to revisit it at that time.
To extend it even longer. Right.
That's the hope, that we can revisit.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve adding the independent consortia to the 30% off rebate for eRead.
Is there a second? Dave? Dave is seconding it. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye that we approve extending eRead rebate to independent consortia.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And any negative vote on that from anyone? Or abstention? The motion carried. Next item is the strategic plan activities report.
Yes, so this is certainly the meeting for reports and data. So we have provided you with a progress report on the activities that we have undertaken this fiscal year to achieve the goals of our strategic plan. So I won't go through it all because I'm sure you've read it all several times. But I'll just maybe a few highlights. At the top of page 2, work with Illinois Heartland to promote resource sharing. I'm really pleased at what a great partnership we have with Heartland. Not just me and Leslie, but also other staff. In Rails and Heartland work together regularly, closely, very collegial. The eRead project itself is an indication of that, and I think also has really fostered that as well. So I'm very happy about that. Also on that same page, you've been hearing about the LSAP contracts. We are working on those. You'll be hearing more about them in January, I think. I think Ann's going to come and give you a report. We've already talked a lot about eRead today. On page 4, you already heard about from Ann about the digitization grants that the state gave out, and we were really happy to be able to provide some consulting expertise assistance through Lyrasis to help libraries to write successful grants. Let's see, and I'm just whipping through this. You can ask me questions at any point. On page 6, when we get to member engagement, there's a lot of activity that has been devoted to that this year. The hiring of Debbie Baskey has been a great addition. She's a great addition to our staff. She's out all the time. It's not just me anymore. And she was just out in, I think, Galena and Moline this week. So I think we're getting a lot of good feedback about our outreach. let's see. I mean, you hear about CE every month. I mean, there's, as you can see on page 9, there's a lot going on with this. Lots of the consulting is ramping up with the Management Association program. The programs that Joe has been able to develop have been really popular. We get great feedback on that. And we're hoping to pretty soon have the consulting directory up and running, and we're looking into doing providing some technology consulting as well. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. We were, as I say, trying to provide you with a snapshot of what we're doing and why we're doing it and what we're accomplishing.
I think it's a good snapshot. Does anybody have any comments? Or Kate?
No, that's okay.
I know.
I did this all for you.
I know you said that reading stuff sometimes jokingly, but I actually did read through it. I took notes. So under the goal 1 with the resource sharing, with the statewide resource sharing summit where you said that the status is unclear, can you explain that a little bit?
On what page is it?
This is number 1.
No.
We had some conversations with members, with staff at the State Library about this. We haven't talked with them lately. I don't know if it's, I'm hoping it will still go forward. It wasn't really planned, to happen until next year.
The status is unclear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it absolutely could certainly still happen.
And then with and I don't have a page number, I'm sorry, I should have a page, but with the cost recovery proposal, the river share, and that they're still evaluating.
Yes.
Is there a timeline on that? Do we know?
Did
they say they were going to respond? Did we give them a timeline? Do they?
Well, we didn't provide them with a timeline. The issue had always been they needed to continue to evaluate the current provider, which was Mala. Mala has since subbed out to a new vendor, to Source One, and their numbers, we believe, are still lower than ours. So my warm and fuzzy is starting to leave a little bit when it comes to us probably retaining that business primarily. The way we have to provide those numbers are truly on a cost recovery basis. So from anything you can imagine, we have to incorporate it, because we cannot use a dime of Illinois taxpayers' money to make deliveries over there. So I lose a little bit when it comes to, being able to put together a proposal that is competitive, because of those reasons. So they wanted to wait and see, because there were rumors in the wind that there were probably going to be an increase in January. So, I think if we give them a couple of more months to evaluate things, and then at that point I can then reach out to them again to find out. But every time I do reach out to them, they're still talking about it. So.
Great, thank you. That's.
My impression, they were in a bad situation at a certain point when they asked us for this information, and then it got better, and so the urgency went away, and so, which is fine, which is,
So now it's, I was just curious. And then, I wanted to, under identify and monitor important issues affecting Rails member libraries and determine how Rails can help members respond to these issues. One of the things that, and this was just, I know this is a snapshot, but I thought was really important was the information that Rails put together and sent out about the administrative rule changes, and that does affect member libraries greatly, but that wasn't listed in there, and I thought that
take credit.
Should be, yes, credit where credit is due.
Thank you, Kate.
And then I just wanted to say yay on the videos and the Rails 101. And Don Slanicki was at my library last week and dropped off a couple Rails folders with just like the basic information, which I had not seen that I've been sharing with my staff, and I just wanted to say that they looked really slick, and I think that that's wonderful. So kudos. I don't know if that was Mary or, yeah, I figured, and so nicely done. And then my last question was just if you could tell us a little bit more about Grazie and how you're using it.
I think I might let Barb do that, actually. She found it at a conference that she went to.
Oh, excellent.
You want to come up?
Come on over.
Come up and say it.
Do you want to sit? Oh, you can sit right here.
Well, I wasn't expecting to talk about this,
I know, just a little bit.
So bear with me. With Grazie, it is an online recognition program that one of the things that I was doing when I went to the SHRM conference was to look for low-cost or no-cost ways of recognition. I came across the booth and looked at their software application, which you use the system, you go in, you put the person's information in, you give them a thank you, or a grazie is called, and what happens is they receive an email, or you can print out a certificate and hand it to them personally, and it's just saying, hey, thanks for doing such a great job, or whatever it is that you want to have in that personalized thank you to that person. They receive it, and it's kind of like an internal social media type of document or type of program, because other people can follow individuals. You can see the thanks that are being given out to one another. One of the things that we do at Rails is to do kudos at each of the different staff meetings and the exec team meetings, where we're giving thanks and recognition to our staff for going over and above and doing just an outstanding job. And thought that this would be a great addition to that, because some people love technology, and to kind of have it go that way, it's on paper, or it can be on paper. It's something that you can have go out. Other people can see the thank you. People can follow one another, and it's contagious. It catches on. We used it for a short period of time with a smaller group, a pilot group, to see if it was something that people would be interested in. They loved it. They loved it, and they just give thanks and thanks and thanks. One of the other components of it is you have the ability, if that's something that you want to do, you can set it up to send out gift cards with that thank you as well. If you have if you had the funding to do that, right? We're not. But that's another way. That way you don't have to go out and go shopping for things. You can say, oh, gift card for this person, send that out. But even without the gift cards, people really and truly appreciate having that. A lot of people were really surprised because they didn't really know about the pilot program, because at first it was small, and then it started to kind of expand out. And we wanted to share it, so then we did the full rollout, and it's really been successful.
So how long has it been since you fully rolled it out?
Couple months.
Maybe
Okay.
a few months.
It looks pretty cool. I've got it on my.
Yeah, I was looking at it last night.
And
It
I was
was,
just thinking of something different for my staff too. That would be, they're all. I think this is great for the older people like myself. Now I put myself down. I'm all about writing down things on paper, but a lot of my staff are young, and I could see them very much getting into this. The ones who have smartphones and all that. I mean,
And you
everyone
can
but
earn
me.
badges.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's true.
I'm gonna look into this when I get back.
Like being a Girl
People
Scout
in another age
or Boy
category,
Scout.
we really like badges. So.
I was going to say, and one of the other things that they have is for our new hires that come in, I've started to use Grazie for that. Kind of, they have a, I can't think of it. I wasn't thinking of
Like an onboarding?
It's a welcome badge, just kind of saying thanks for joining Rails, and I send that out to people now as a thank you. In addition to the supervisors, I ask that they do a little personalized card welcoming the person as well. So it's an all around good system. People love it and they use it.
And now it seemed like it was free unless you chose to do the gift card thing, or is there a cost, an administrative cost?
There's no cost.
I just don't understand.
Just the gift card, because they're really the.
Companies kick in.
Yeah, I was going to say it may be down the road that they
Well,
may
sure,
do
that
something
they're
like
trying
that.
to recruit us, and then once you're hooked, they're like, well.
Right. But I mean, the people, when I spoke with them, they were part of another organization, a larger organization that you do have to do cost related programs, and they were trying to offer something to those of us that didn't have that type of funding to do that. And it's a small team, and they're very big on feedback. You go and say, hey, we can't do this. Is there a way to do that? They're like, great, thank you for the information, because it's something that they really want to build and get people to use.
Kudos on finding it. This sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
Sure.
There is a fee for a transaction fee when a gift card is given, according to the.
Yes, that's the only.
You have that anyhow, in transaction fee when you give a gift card.
Right.
Yes. And it's nominal.
Cool.
Thank you, Barb.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So any other questions about
On
the
the
report?
activities report. Program budget report.
Yeah, so one more report. I think I'll ask Jim if he would mind joining me up here. And, you know, kudos to Jim on this. He really did a lot of work on this. So, as I said in my memo, not truly a program budget in that we didn't build it from the ground up, but we just wanted to be able to give you some idea of how we believe our money is being spent in terms of the different goals that we have. And I think it, you know, the lion's share, vast majority is on resource sharing, which makes sense. That includes delivery and the LSAPs. So of course that's the, you know, most of what we do. The access to information is really the Talking Book program. And then you'll see that even though we're doing more and more on member engagement and a continuing education, it's still a very, very small piece. And we looked at that several times over to be sure that it was big enough. And so it just, that's the story, you know, we're not really spending that much. We're, I think, getting a big bang for the buck, so to speak. But, and of course, you know, stewardship is another relatively large amount because that's so important, and that's, you know, also most of what, you know, finance does as well. So Jim can tell you how we developed, how he, the Royal We, developed these percentages if you want. And if you have any, if you see anything that looks weird, or if you have any questions, but we're going to, you know, keep working on this.
Will we be able to, this is wonderful. And I'm curious, though, if, you know, this is based on the budget allocation, it'd be interesting to see how it eventually shakes out at the end of the year
Oh,
once
yes.
all of the resources have been.
Well, that was of course our actual goal, was to do expense reports based on, it's harder than, it's harder, yeah.
Oh, I'm not there.
Right.
I mean, what about blended things?
Yeah, well,
Determining
yeah,
you,
well,
I'm
like,
sure I'm-
most of us are blended, you know,
Yeah,
like me,
yes.
you know.
There's a lot of time allocations
Yeah,
involved.
I mean, that's mostly what it is, it's staff.
Yeah.
You know, so,
It would be interesting to see how
yes, how it really
the
plays out.
reality compares to our goals.
Well,
which are
maybe
huge.
we'll put that on the list.
So, yeah, I mean, not,
No, I know exactly what you mean. Are you
but
doing
I mean,
what
I
you
know
say
that
you're
this
going to
probably
do?
was very difficult to put together, because how do you determine?
Although once you have it spread out this way, now it's there.
Yeah.
But we've got the basic blueprint for what we
You
did
know
to
that-
get to this, and
40% of Dee's time is allocated here, and
Right.
Well, and I find this a little easier to read than of our financial stuff.
Well,
all
yeah.
The sheets based on each, you know, there's like what?
Right, the line items.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
kind of nice. I can just see personnel where they're at, you know. So
Yep.
I like this too.
So, just again, a snapshot.
Okay, any other questions? Next item is just unfinished business. Discussion and possible approval of adding military service credit to IMRF benefits.
Thank you, Jim.
And Barb, you want to fill us in? We have a memo, and it was discussed at the Operations Committee, or the Policy and Operations Committee meeting this morning. And they recommend that we accept this as
Right.
suggested. Are there any questions for Barb? Or Barb, can you give us any further insight?
I'm not going to say if it's not needed, then I won't. But then I can.
I think we're
Looks
clear.
good.
Okay.
Give her a gift card.
It's not hooked up, so.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the military service credit as recommended by the staff.
Nice second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion on it? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 9.2, Library System Proposed Rules and Standard Changes, which I don't think we have much new on.
No, there is no update. I just leave it on there.
Okay.
In case there is one.
And an update on innovation experts.
Yes, there is a letter in your packet that we did ask our attorney to send. This was based on continuing confusion, lack of documentation, in a timely way, et cetera. So we just, basically we're saying that we're moving forward to do what is right for us to do for Rails members. It's not a, that's it. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, that's it. It's just to put it out there. As I said in my memo, there was no requirement that we do this. It just seemed like the right thing to do, to put it out there. Jane's is closer to the, and so is Veranda, in terms of the individual vendors and how those things are working out. I don't know if you have any questions about this. I have not heard back from innovation experts since this was sent on November 6th.
Jane
so-
and Dee showed me this letter before it went out, and I think we're all in pretty complete agreement that something had to be done.
Has any of the vendors given approval?
Yes, I'll give you a rundown of where we are. Rainfuse, we had heard some time ago, as previously reported, that they were not going to consent. So, Credo did provide written consent. It was a little confusing because they provided us with the consent, notify innovation experts. So we have not received any information directly with innovation experts, but our approach in general has been that once we receive the consent, we are working directly with the vendor and with the current libraries that are subscribing to get accurate information and make sure everybody's on the same page. It's Veranda and Amanda who are moving forward with that piece of it and doing a great job. So with Credo, Innovation Experts had only 5 libraries, actually 4 of them were chosen to renew. We have processed invoices for 3 renewals. The remaining library had actually paid Innovation Experts, who should have paid Credo. So there is a bit of a billing issue. We have furnished proof of that invoicing and payment to both Innovation Experts and Credo. And it's clear from the consent that Innovation Experts is responsible for that piece of it. So that is still in question. Gale, there were 2 components to what Innovation Experts had. They had an offering for public libraries and one for schools. We have gotten consent, not via a form, but via email, that the public library offering is being transferred to us, but the school component with different division or section decided not to, so we will be moving forward with the public library offerings on that. LexisNexis and Tutor.com both declined assignment. Boopsy was the first one to provide written consent. That has quite a bit more participation, about 27 member libraries. 3 of whom have renewal dates in December, so they are the priority. And I know that Veranda has been in contact several times with BOOPC and will be working on making sure those renewals are processed. The only other vendor one was Q4 Mobile, and we had agreed with Innovation Experts that it didn't make sense to pursue discussions with the vendor at all because there were no libraries participating in that, and in fact, Innovation Experts had no contact with Q4 Mobile after signing the contract. So we may approach them in the future. They have some interesting technology mixes, but it's not something that's urgent. So our focus right now is making sure that libraries that already have subscriptions, that those renewals are all processed and we get up-to-date information and our records in place. After that, and there'll be firm arrangements with the vendors. Like Incredo wants to talk about a new agreement, which we're open to. Once we've got through that phase, we will be opening up these opportunities to additional members. Certainly our intent is to grow the program. So that was all the e-resource offerings that were under discussion. So the remaining program is the Museum Adventure Pass. We have heard nothing since the letter was sent to Innovation Experts as to what that status will be. The latest we'd heard on that was that their board was going to review that program sometime in November. We don't know when.
Jane, the Gale for the public libraries, the libraries paid Innovation Experts. Do we anticipate any forward of payment to Rails to cover those, or they
What
pay Innovation Experts
we
pay
have
Gale?
been doing is that if Innovation Experts did the invoicing and payment went to Innovation Experts, they are still responsible for paying the vendor.
Right.
Anything going forward, Rails will handle, and then we will bill the.
And we know that they've paid the vendors?
Do we know how, Gail?
The status of payment, are you asking?
Yeah.
We have haven't gotten all the information yet.
I mean, my stuff hasn't been cut off, so I'm assuming that
We
there's some
just
payments
sent
been
them an email last night stressing our concern about continuation of service for members. We haven't been provided the list or renewal dates yet, but we've asked for it.
From
A
Gail.
few times.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. She said the renewal date was June 30th.
Oh, yeah, she did say the renewal date. She verbally told us the renewal date was June 30th for all the Innovation Expert libraries. But I'd like to see some paperwork on that too. But
Mine
thank you,
was.
Amanda.
Mine was. I held my
Okay.
bill for about 2 months.
But they said they were working from several databases. It would take us a minute to get to.
Gail.
That's kind of an interesting statement about privacy, though. What Gail, I mean, you explained who you are. We know and love you, but Gail doesn't necessarily know when you're calling and saying, well, we have these member libraries. And
Well, we've met with them several
okay.
times here, actually right here.
It's a known client. Just in terms of privacy and turning over a client list would be scary.
True.
We're very trustworthy though, man.
I know
Once they know you, they know that.
Once they know you, they love you, Veranda.
And also, we have some other purchases outside.
Well, I mean, so they know you're not just like some 70-year-old man sitting in his basement.
But I'm thinking, library name.
You guys can work it out, you know what I mean? It's fun.
Do you know many of those people?
I don't, but Gail might.
On that note,
Can I just ask about the museum pass though? Because next steps? I mean, the museum pass was going to.
That's really why we sent the letter.
I mean, what
But we got this.
if we hear nothing?
Well, we're going to do what we need to do in terms of.
You know, so there goes that spreadsheet of staff time.
Well.
So potentially more information at that.
Yeah, I mean, we need to know what their board is going to do. We're not sure when they were meeting, sometime this month, so time's running out on that. I think that, we have some ideas about how to expand the Museum Pass program. We've had some very preliminary conversations with the Chicago Public Library about theirs and maybe working with them and extending it throughout Illinois, with Heartland. So we're thinking big.
Great.
Yep.
Assuming we can get it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, I think the CPL may be interested. They didn't say no.
The salary survey reminded us again. where-
That just stayed with innovation experts.
That's their proprietary, that may be,
They're not getting that.
They're not what?
Participation as they have in the past.
Is that true?
I know I haven't done it. My one-man boycott.
I like
But
it.
no, they've extended it, twice now? Was it last week was the end, finally?
Meeting with people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been getting just about daily emails.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
2 years now.
Next item on the agenda is the Rails board member reports, and I will make the first one. And since we are not meeting again until January, I want you all to be aware that the LaGrange Public Library is having a fundraiser to preserve and reestablish the quilt that was in the previous library. The fundraiser is going to be a chocolate-themed fundraiser.
I like
So,
that.
thought you might be interested in that.
You
On-
have a chocolate fountain.
on Saturday, January 24th. So are there,
Nice.
Dave, you say you have,
Yeah, it's not so much a report, something we're going to do, but the other night at our board meeting, I hate to bring confusion to the table, but we're confused, and clarification would be nice. One of the board members brought up the fact that he was understood that AT&T is putting another surcharge, and the surcharge, part of the funds would go to libraries for internet purposes. And he said this was similar to what was done years ago when cable first came out. Government,
Yeah.
companies had to bring some money towards governmental use. He said we could have a, TV station, part of the library now if we wanted one. And I don't know if this is true. If it is true, if there's going to be extra monies for libraries, is this something that we could, is this an opportunity for us to help our members, find out about this and let them know that there might be X amount of dollars coming down the road?
Is this related to E-rate?
I think so.
I think it must be, because that's where the surcharge, that's where the E-rate program is funded through charges to
Universal service fee,
Right.
universal service fee, internet providers, cable companies, I think, et cetera. So they've been revising the rules of E-rate.
Yeah.
It's been a big controversy. That's one of the, it's kind of related to that net neutrality thing we just saw from the president. We can certainly look into it. It's hard. It's a murky subject, which I think is what you're alluding to also. Yes. I don't know if you have anything.
But the program, we went to a seminar in St. Louis on that about 2 weeks ago. And it's still murky, but basically the program is being restructured and there is additional funding coming in the next year or two. And the emphasis is going towards broadband support and bringing internet into the libraries and away from day-to-day communications type of things that were previously supported. That's either being eliminated or phased out. But if you have a very modern program where you're going to have contracts for broadband service and more internet access, you're likely to be covered under this, and you could get a federal subsidy.
But
It's a highly administrative process. But
Incredibly
there's a lot of consultants
bureaucratic.
out there
Yeah.
for people to get started on.
But still based on the, school
Yes,
lunch.
based on the
So
school
that's
lunch.
still the underlying criteria?
Yes. I mean, there's been a lot of,
Don't worry about it, kid.
I don't know have they actually decided that it's going to be more about broadband, or is that just what the chairman wants? I'm not even
Really sound like.
they've just, okay.
What we've got,
Yeah.
telephone will be reduced 20%
Yes.
until it's nothing.
Right.
And internet will be funded, so.
Which is, I mean, certainly in terms of broadband, that's a huge need in Illinois and some of our communities, but.
We're scheduled to get $20,000 back this year, so.
So we can, so I don't know about the television station part.
I'm sorry?
I don't know about the television station part. Yeah.
We will find out about it.
Yeah, we
Mary
can-
Jo, do you have?
Okay. I have a few things to share with you from I Lead You. One, and Ann was in the room when this was all said, so I really like that fact. And they did not know I was a Rails board member sitting there, so it was even better. One, I looked to Rails for PD, professional
Oh,
development.
this is what the members said? Oh,
This is
great.
what the members said. They miss the consultants. They're feeling a disconnect to systems. And I don't think it was just school people. I think it was some public people
Sure.
too.
Sure.
Don't lose Rails at all. They want Rails to become a CPDU provider, which is what the teachers
Yeah.
have to have. Again. And then the tablet team wanted to thank you and Mark for the help with getting the delivery set up so that the traveling tablets can actually travel on our vans. There's a set of tablets that travel, and you can borrow them at your library for a while and try out different things with them. And they got it set up so it can travel through Rails and hopefully Heartland too. It's going to be able to start traveling through. So those were just nice things that they
That is
started
nice.
saying.
Any other member reports? Thank
Forget
you.
about the CPDUs, because Joe Philip and I did talk about this, and because of changes at the Illinois State Board of Education, it's very unlikely
Yeah.
that we will be able to. Become
We would like to.
Group.
Yeah.
Joe's been working on this almost since the day it started.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also an issue for Heartland and for the state library. Joe told me that he will be talking with Robert Jones at the state library and Ellen Poppett at Heartland to talk about alternatives and perhaps there's ways that we could partner with ABC that is able to issue CPDUs.
Mhm. Yeah. Islam is in the same boat. We're working on our application.
Yeah.
We spent all of last Saturday working on it, trying to get it done so that we can go back and provide CPDUs.
Shouldn't make it
Something that
hard.
You're supposed to have,
Should-
but
We're
there's
supposed
no
to
system.
have.
Now
I
they've
know.
Teachers
Because
have
they made it a lot harder.
They've made it a lot
They made it more
harder.
local control. At least that's the way it seemed to me
Yeah.
when I was reading.
And apparently, from what I understand from our human resource person, she said there's some stuff coming down that the district can now approve it as an approved CPDU activity, and they can issue the CPDU, which will help some people.
But district by district for.
Yeah, I mean, every district has to be a CPDU provider or should be. But I still see there being issues with the system.
The system's doing it makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah.
Because it covers the whole state.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other board member reports?
Farmington Library opened the 1st of November, so Macomb is scheduled for June.
Awesome.
Great.
Can't wait to visit.
This will be my last meeting as the director. I think you guys all know this, but I'll say it anyway. As the director of the New Lenox Public Library, I'm going to be starting on January 5th as the executive director of the Northbrook Public Library. So
Congratulations.
You guys are still stuck with me,
Congratulations. We all knew it, but congratulations
Yeah.
again.
but I knew you were stuck with me.
I've been trying to ditch you for a while, but
Any agenda building for the next Rails meeting? There is going to be a policy, is it policy or
No,
operations?
Not policy,
Not
we don't
policy,
think,
but operations.
we'll.
not till January.
January.
So we could show up here, but that would be your Christmas parties.
Right.
Anything else, agenda building?
I presume there'll be an update on innovation.
If there is one.
Yeah. I think we're officially adjourned then.
Good.
Everybody have a happy
Thank you.
holiday.
Thank you.